Finally, these men, these are Daniel's colleagues, said, "We will never find any basis for charges against this man Daniel unless it has something to do with the law of his God." See, they knew that there was nothing they could do unless it had something to do with God. So the administrators and the satraps went as a group to the king and said, "O King Darius, live forever. The royal administrators, prefects, satraps, advisors, and governors have all agreed that the king should issue an edict and enforce the decree that anyone who prays to any god or man during the next 30 days, except to you, O king, shall be thrown into the lion's den." Now, O king, issue the decree and put it in writing so that it cannot be altered, in accordance with the laws of the Medes and Persians, which cannot be repealed. So King Darius put the decree in writing. Verse 10. Now when Daniel learned that the decree had been published, he went home to his upstairs room where the windows opened towards Jerusalem. 3 times a day he got down on his knees and he prayed, giving thanks to his God, huge line, just as he had done before. You see, for Daniel, it didn't matter who was in charge. He was going to pray to his king. Daniel lived during the reign of at least 3 kings. Nebuchadnezzar, then he was wiped out, and then there was this guy named Belshazzar. Well, then Belshazzar was slain, and then there's King Darius. That's where we are right here. So throughout all 3 of those kings, what did he do? He got down on his knees and prayed. He got down on his knees and prayed. He got down on his knees and prayed. And then we keep going with the story. Skip down to verse 16. You see, Daniel did that. Guys saw it. They said, "King, he's breaking the law. We got to throw him. You said it, king. We got to throw him into the lion's den." Verse 16. So the king gave the order, and they brought Daniel and threw him into the lion's den. The king said to Daniel, "May your God, whom you serve continually, rescue." Remember what Steve said? Rescue you. A stone was brought and placed over the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring. This is what made it official. And with the rings of his nobles, so that Daniel's situation might not be changed. Then the king returned to his palace and spent the night without eating and without any entertainment being brought to him, and he could not sleep. 19. At the first light of dawn, the king got up and he hurried to the lion's den. You ever felt like your workplace was like a lion's den? You ever had a test of faith in your workplace where it seemed like everyone was against you, where you feel like you've just been thrown into this pit, no idea what to do, no idea where to look, just thrown into this pit, lions all around you. Test of faith. Look what happens in verse 20. When he came near the den, he called to Daniel in anguished voice, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to rescue you from the lions?" Look at that verse again. Has your God, whom you serve continually. You see, King Darius knew something about Daniel. And he knew something about Daniel's God. And how did he know something about Daniel's God? Because Daniel showed it in his actions, in his attitude, in his witness at work. How else would Darius know that this is the God whom you serve continually? So again, I ask the question, can the same be said of us? Would your boss be able to say, your God, whom you serve continually, is your worship and your work so tied together that your life is a witness to the living King? I pray that it would be. I pray that your identity, I pray that your calling in Jesus Christ, that would believe, that your life would not be fragmented, that your life would not be separated, that your social life, that your financial life, that your church life, that your friend life, that your work life would not be in all these different categories, but that your life would be a life of worship. Worship and work come from the same word. That's what God calls us to do. For them, the Torah was life. For us, Christ is our life. Take a look at this video about work.
So, what are you doing this upcoming week? Odds are you'll be working in some respect or another. For many of us, our job is where we spend a large chunk of our day. We probably see the people we work with on a regular basis as much as we see many others in our lives. What would it look like to live life on mission 24/7 at work, at school, in our jobs, in whatever calling or vocation God has placed in your heart. Work is God ordained. In fact, the Apostle Paul writes in Colossians, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for men, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving."
If this is your first time here, every week here during this series, we have the opportunity to show a quick little intro video, and then we invite someone who is a part of our larger church family. We're a worship venue of St. John Lutheran Church, and so from different venues we invite people to come and to share a little bit of how they're living life on mission in this respective area. So I want to introduce Sudha Savarna. Come up here, and you get the lucky stool. I warmed it up for you. I warmed it up. Sudha has been a member of our St. John family for a number of years and currently serves on our board of directors. But when we were thinking about people who live their life on mission at work, Sudha was one of the first people that came to mind. And so we just want to give him the chance to share and encourage you. He has some very practical, very helpful ways in which he shares his faith at work. And so Sudha, I guess we'll just start with that. What are some of the ways that you're able to share your faith at work?
Yeah, in fact, most of the time, people would assume that having some kind of a Christian logo or symbols or some artifact sitting in your keyboard in your office, would convey the message that you are a Christian and people will come to you. I tried that a long time ago. What ended up happening was I was talking to faithful Christians, and I was missing out a whole lot of opportunities to reach out to people who don't know Christ. So then I changed the whole scenario and just had one sign. There was a gift from one of the pastors. All that sign says is, "Lord, nothing will happen to me today that you and I cannot handle it together." Period. It doesn't say signed by a whomever. So a lot of people come and ask me, "So what is this?" So that was a good conversation starter. So then I realized, wow, this is attracting people who are not Christians. They are asking me some questions about my faith. So then I realized in order for me to start talking about my faith and whatnot, I have to live a life of integrity, high ethics, and strong moral values. If I don't do that, nobody cares, and guess what happens? Christianity's name is just dragged to the mud, and it happens every day. So I just had to hold myself to higher standards and make sure that when things go wrong, I don't use inappropriate words, which I used to. So that pretty much transformed the way I used to live my life at workspace. So I think with that, what happened was every time someone had some issue, like a death in the family, or somebody was sick, or one of my employees called and said, my mom's in the hospital. So I used to show up in the hospital unannounced. And that went a long way. That got extra mileage. I wasn't able to do that. I just wanted to make sure that I'm there to pray with them and be with them. And I think that's what happened. And I think the word spreads. People do understand that there are some people in the leadership capacity, they do care about people. So when that happens, then you have a very large audience, people who can come and ask you, "Hey, can you pray for me? My wife is expecting a baby. Can you pray for me? And it looks like it's going to be serious." Or in a situation like there's a death in the family, they'll say, "Oh, I'm not able to make it to work in the next 2 to 3 days because there's a death in the family." So officially they get 3 days off. But every funeral opportunity I have, and I'm in town, I show up. So I think that's an opportunity as Christians for us to step up and show that we love and we care for them. And that's how you share the love of Christ.
That's awesome. I really hope that you heard what Sudha said, because those are just great helpful things for all of us. Sudha, I also know that you play in a Christian band. So how do you use that, in addition to what you've already said, as a tool to reach out?